In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a birdhouse to camouflage my ultrasonic anti-dog barking device. In this tutorial, I'm using some design and calculation equipment. I have a measuring tape as well as a square with measurements on it. I have some spare plywood, so I'm going to use it. You could also use 2x4s or 2x6s. Some sort of sealant, you could use silicone or normal latex caulking. Either a miter saw or a circular saw will work. To make it look very convincing, you'll probably need some stain or some paint. Okay, first thing I've done is sketched it out. This is how I want it to look. It needs to be completely accessible, so I can remove this box and put it in. Speakers will butt up to holes I cut out in the front of it, and it's just going to mount to a 2x4 that I drive into the ground. I'm also going to have to completely seal it to make sure rain doesn't get in. This is a sealed box, rain can't get in here anyways, but I don't want water getting in and rotting it in the inside right here. Next, I'm going to measure the widest point of the box. If I read right here, it's at 11.5 inches. Next, I'm going to measure the height. I can see right here that it's about 7 1/8 inches. Measure the box at the widest point. This is right at 5 1/8 inches. You can see here, I've written down my dimensions. These numbers will decide how big to make the birdhouse. Using the dimensions you just measured, you could outline how big the inside of the birdhouse needs to be. The bottom piece is going to be completely enclosed by all the sides. You can see this is a cross section of what it's going to look like. This is a front view, and I have hidden lines showing the members on the other side of this front cover. So with that said, I'm going to take my baseline dimensions and just add a little bit of cushion so I have enough room for the box to wiggle around in easily enough. So using the dimensions you just measured, we could line out how big the inside of the box needed to be to find out how big each piece needs to be. So I know the depth was 5 1/8 inches. I'm going to give a little more than that just so there's plenty of room, so I bumped it up to 6.5. We know the box is 11.5 inches wide, so I'm going to add an extra ½ inch so there's 1/4 inch on each side. I'm going to add 3/8 of an inch to that to bring it up to an even 7.5. But I also need to account for the thickness of the bottom piece since I'm going to overlap it like this. So that's 7.5 plus 3/4, which is 8 1/4. For the width of the front piece, I know it's going to be the width of the bottom piece. Calculating the dimensions of the sides and the top are a little more complicated just because of the angle, so I'm going to make this brief. So we know we made the front 8 1/4 inches tall. So that's going to be what this side is, 8 1/4. We also know we made the bottom piece 6.5 inches wide, so we need to add a 3/4 inch for the front piece. So we know this rectangular shape. To calculate this triangular section up here, we're going to have to use trigonometry. Also for the width, I needed to overhang the sides by ½ inch or so each side, so I'm just going to take the width from here to here, which is the 13.5, the same dimension as the front piece, and add 1 inch, so that's 14.5 for the width. So now we have the dimensions of all our pieces. We have the top, sides, front, and bottom. The back piece is just going to be a very large board that we're going to mount to the post. I'm going to cut the pieces, so from this point on, make sure wear your eye protection, your ear protection, and your respirator. I've also seen a huge benefit to wearing knee pads. It's much less hard on the knees if you're on a concrete floor. The top piece is too long to fit in the miter saw to get a bevel on it, so to get that 30-degree bevel on the top side, for the bottom piece, I'm just going to paint with some Rust-Oleum. To apply the stain, get a rag of some sort, dip it in the stain, and all you're going to do is make circular motions and go around the entire surface. Once you have wiped off the stain, you will then need to let it completely dry. Once the stain is dried, it's time to apply the finish. So I put some in this little bucket right here. Once you've applied one coat, let it completely dry. Once the finish has completely dried, it's time to assemble the birdhouse. To temporarily hold the boards together, I'm going to use a hot glue gun. Once it's all held together, I'm then going to drill the holes in the back and apply screws to them. With the sides secured to the front and bottom, I'm going to attach the top piece. So I'm going to line it up and make sure it's symmetric between the sides. I actually mounted this slightly crooked relative to this base plate, but I can still remove it because it's only tack glued with the hot glue gun. Now that all the pieces are secured together, I'm just going to remove the box from the base plate. Here's a quick mock-up of how the ammo box is fitting in here. You can see there's plenty of room in all dimensions. So if you need to put something else in here as well, it'll still fit. Now it's time to drill the holes through the base plate that'll secure the birdhouse. To do this, I'm going to flip the base plate upside down. I'm going to position the birdhouse like I want it to mount on the other side. I'm going to scoot the birdhouse over slightly and then center the drill bit where the center of the board would have been. Now just repeat for the other side and the bottom piece. Now I'm going to make the hole in the back that the wires will be able to go to into these jacks. Now I'm going to mark the holes where the speakers will go relative to the ammo box. Once you drill the holes, you can do a test fit with the ammo box. As you can see, it lines up pretty well. To make sure the ammo box stays secure in the birdhouse, I'm going to use some Velcro to attach it. With the birdhouse put together, it's time to make the post that it's going to mount to. Next, I will need to make a cut in the 2x4s just so I can hide the wire. To do this, uses two 2x4s sandwiched together like this. This is the ground right here, so this is all on the ground. So what you'll do is get the circular saw and make a cut right here. So this is a beveled edge right here. So you'll do it the entire length of one of them. Then you would immediately reverse it on the same one, move the blade on the other way so it makes a V. The blade might go slightly deeper than this, but it'll make a V shape that you could remove. This is a little hollow spot, so you'll be able to hide the cord on the inside. What I've done with the circular saw is all I did was drill another 2x4 right here. This is just to add space so the blade doesn't go all the way through the 2x4 that you're cutting. So I just have it held on with a little screw and a washer. So pivot like this, but it has the clearance that you need to raise it up. So I guess this is about 40 degrees angled. So you would hold this like this, On the ground, you would put the blade where you want it to cut, and then you would just move across one way. Then you would go on the other side and line it up so it makes a V, and then just stick across it like this. Then it'll make a perfect sliver that you can remove, and you have a little hollow spot. Once you have made the V cut in the 2x4s and screwed them together, it's time to mount the birdhouse to your post. To find out where to mount the birdhouse, you will have to subtract the length that's going to be underground and line it up where you want the speakers to be located. Ideally, the speakers will be pointed at the dogs to be the most effective. So I already know what height the speakers need to be, so I've positioned the birdhouse on the post like this. I've also centered it like this. Now I'm going to reach inside the birdhouse and draw an outline around the hole that I drilled in the back of it. This is so you know where to drill a through hole for the cord to pass through. Now just drill a hole all the way through the first 2x4 into the V cut that you cut in already. Once you have drilled the through hole, remove the 2x4s from each other. Broad enough so you'll be able to stick the excess into the birdhouse if you need to. Now just run the rest of the cord along the length of the V cut. It doesn't matter once it's past the level of the ground, so at that point you could just put it off to the side. Now put the 2x4s back together, making sure the cord is in the V groove. With the 2x4s back together, you'll be able to pass the wire through the back of it like this, and then remount the birdhouse. At this point you are done. You would just put the speakers back in the birdhouse, then go dig a hole for the post to sit in. To hide the wire, you will need to dig a small trench leading from the post to wherever you're plugging it in. Also, to cover up the speakers, you could use something like pantyhose directly over the holes like this. I'm just using the hot glue gun again. This is completely optional, but I ended up adding a little roof and many sides just to put this in shadow so you can't tell that there's something there. The pantyhose just look like shadows now. I also put little pegs that birds would sit on just to be more convincing. And that is how I make a birdhouse to mask my anti-dog barking device.